What is up guys, Moose here, and today we are going to be going over the Hunter Prismatic subclass. Now of course I haven't actually got the chance to use the subclass yet, but with all the videos that creators have been putting out, we've gotten a lot more insight into how the subclass is going to work and what things are going to mesh together. And we've gotten exact in-game descriptions of all the aspects and fragments and such, so we know how they're going to work together. Now, I don't know if I'm actually allowed to use other people's gameplay, so there's going to be no gameplay in the background. We're just going to be looking at the subclasses, and I'm going to be showing you guys what I think is going to be a very good Hunter build for day one. Now, of course, all this is subject to change, as Final Shape hasn't released yet, and things could change when we actually get our hands on it, and stuff could feel different and maybe not work well together. But I am pretty confident that this is going to be my loadout going into the day one raid. Now, if you do want to see me make a Titan and Warlock video similar to this one, please let me know down in the comments. I made Hunter. I'm going to be taking Hunter into the day one raid, so that's why I'm making this video on Hunter, because I'm more invested into that class. But if other people want to see other classes, then just let me know down below. Now, what we're looking at here is the Perspective subclass overview made by Corp Projects over on Twitter. I will have a link to this down in the description below. Make sure to go over there and look at it yourself if you want to. Now, I want to make sure that nobody's confused why we're using some of this stuff. It may seem a little bit weird, but it will all make sense once we get down to the aspects and the fragments, so just trust me when I'm talking about the melees, grenades, class abilities, etc. So for our super, we're going to want to be using Marksman Golden Gun. This is because this is the one that crits and does more damage, so we're going to be using that with Celestial Nighthawk. Then we're going to be using Knife Trick. This is because our neutral exotic that we're going to be using is the Assassin's Cowl, and Knife Trick is, in my opinion, the best exotic to use with it. Now, we are already going to start with the differences here compared to how we normally play Assassin's Cowl right now on Solar Hunter. So if we take a look, I run 37 mobility. Now, this is because you don't really need your dodge too often because you always have your melee up anyways, and that's because of knock 'em down. The first part is whatever, but the bottom part will Radiant Final Blows with your equipped throwing knife fully refund your melee energy. Now, on Prismatic, if we take a look here, you'll see we don't actually have knock 'em down as an option for an aspect. So I'm assuming I'm going to be running 100 mobility now instead of 100 discipline. The reason I use 100 discipline now is for healing grenades, but again, on Prismatic, we don't have healing grenades. So I'm thinking mobility is going to be much more important on this build compared to normal solar. Now, if we head on down to the grenades, we're going to be using the Duskfield grenade. Now, that may sound a little bit weird. You may want to run the Arc Bolt or even the Grapple, but trust me when I tell you you're going to be wanting to use the Duskfield grenade. It's all going to make sense when we get down to the fragments. And in terms of aspects, we're going to be going with Stylish Executioner and Gunpowder's Gamble. Now, the reason why we're going with these is if we go and take a look at the current Void subclass, we'll see that Stylish Executioner, defeating a weakened, suppress, or volatile target grants invisibility, and after performing a Stylish Execution, your next melee attack, while invisible, weakens targets. But if we take a look over at the chart here, this example here, so Stylish Executioner normally requires killing a void debuff target. We just went over that. But now it will trigger by killing any elemental debuff target. Now that includes Scorch and Ignites, which Knife Trick does. If we go and take a look at the current Solar subclass, we'll see that Knife Trick scorches and ignites. So we'll now be able to proc Stylish Executioner with our melee on Prismatic. We're also going to want to be going with Gunpowder's Gamble. Now, admittedly, Gunpowder's Gamble isn't great, but the other options we have are even worse. Threaded Spectre is pretty much useless in PvE. Ascension, from the gameplay that I've seen, of course we don't actually have our hands on it yet, so we don't know. It seems to be very undertuned and not too powerful. So I'm just going with Gunpowder's Gamble because it's reliable and we're going to be able to proc it regularly. If you forgot what it does, so defeating targets with solar abilities, solar debuffs, or solar weapons charge up your improvised solar explosive. It's a little stick of dynamite. Now, because we're using throwing knife and probably likely going to be using Sunshot, we're going to be able to proc Gunpowder's Gamble a whole lot. Now, of course, on our neutral exotic build, so that's going to be our Assassin's Cowl build, we're going to be using Gambler's Dodge, and this is because when we dodge near an enemy, we're going to get our melee back. So because you don't have knock 'em down, this is going to be even more important to make sure we always have high up times on our knives. And it's also going to synergize with a fragment, and we're going to get into that later. Then, on our Celestial Nighthawk, and then swapping into Radiant Dance Machine's build, we're going to be using Marksman Dodge. This is because we're going to want to reload our weapon with our dodge, and that's going to synergize well with Radiant Dance Machines. So far, it may be looking like Prismatic is just a worse solar, you could say, because you don't have healing grenade, you don't have the aspects you want. But now when we get into the fragments, you will see why this build and Prismatic itself is so powerful. Now if we scroll down to the fragments, you'll see that we have 21 options. Now that's a lot, and they're going to be taking from all the different subclasses and slightly changing them to work properly with Prismatic. Now the first fragment we're going to be going over is the Faucet of Courage. Now what this is going to do is make it so our light abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted by darkness debuffs. Now what this means is our golden gun is going to deal more damage to targets affected by our Duskfield grenade, i.e. slow. So this right off the gate is already going to make your golden gun deal even more damage, and assuming that also stacks with Faucet of Dawn, which we're going to be using, where powered melee hits grant you Radiant, golden gun's going to be doing even more damage than ever. So we've already got 2 of our fragments out of the way, and with the 2 aspects we're using, we get 5 fragment slots, so we got 3 more. And we're going to be filling these out with utility and survivability fragments. So the next fragment we're going to be going with is Faucet of Hope. Now what this is going to do is make it so our class ability regenerates more quickly when you have an elemental buff active. So this is going to be our restorations, our cures, our radiance, even the new frost armor is going to work with this. Now once again, we don't actually have our hands on it yet, so we don't know how powerful this class ability regeneration is going to be. I tried to look for it in the gameplay, and I couldn't really find someone who tested it properly, so we're going to just have to wait and see how good this actually is, but I'm thinking this is going to synergize really well with Assassin's Cowl and 100 mobility. Next, we're going to be going down to Faucet of Purpose. Now, this is going to make you lose 10 recovery, but with all the survivability we have, you're really not going to notice that, honestly. So what this is going to do is picking up an orb of power grants an elemental buff based on your equipped super. Now, if you remember, we're using Golden Gun, so we're going to get Restoration. Now, if you're using let's go over to Assassin's Cowl. When you're using Assassin's Cowl, you're almost always going to have a heavy-handed mod on. So your powered melee final blows create orbs of power. Then you pick it up, you get Restoration. Now this is just going to stack on top of the already insane survivability that we have with Assassin's Cowl. Now, I feel like Faucet of Mending could be a decent option, but I don't really know how many kills our Duskfield Grenade is going to be getting. So because of that, what we're going to be going with is Faucet of Blessing, where our melee kills start health regeneration, and then when we're Transcendent, they also start health regeneration for you and your teammates. Now, if all of this works how I believe it's going to work together, I believe the neutral game of Assassin's Cowl is going to be even better on Prismatic, and of course, because of our Faucet of Courage, the Golden Gun damage is going to be even better on Prismatic, so I'm feeling like we're going to be taking Prismatic into the Day 1 raid. I know a lot of people are suspect about that, but I really do think Prismatic is going to be better than Solar. Now, if you guys did enjoy this build video, please remember to comment down below if you want to see a Titan and Warlock video. If nobody wants to see it, I don't really want to spend time doing it, but if people are interested, of course, I will do it. And yeah, that's all. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.